Nigerians won't stone them. They won't. They talk tough. They talk loud. But when they meet their criminal oppressors, they want to take pictures. Not for those guys. They've had enough. You know? Anyway, I am not, by the way, I am not encouraging violence. So I'm not asking you to knock anybody out back for head you. So that you don't come back and say you learned it from Mayegun. But just make sure that you do what is necessary when it is necessary, and you stand there to take responsibility as well. You know, they blame Satan. You know, say you won't break any politician head. Break him, go to roti. You know what I mean? It's Baba Jesha, like Baba Jesha, that sent his son to go and get some home training in the hand of Ituba Baita. And Ituba Baita is like the godfather of all the area boys, the touts. He's also a Igbo dealer, a Igbo smoker. So after a week, right, they returned Baba Jesha's son to him, only for Baba Jesha a few hours later to come back and said, "You have destroyed the life of my son." And what happened? According to him, he said his son no longer lies. He stabbed somebody. I asked him, "Did you stab him?" He said, "Yes." He punched somebody and, you know, sort of broke their face. I asked him, "Did you break that woman's face?" And he said, "Yes. You destroyed the life of my husband. I just help you train your son. You should be grateful to me that I have raised a son that won't lie, because I'm a broken paro, kind of. You know, so for them in the north, right, it is what you see that you get. They do have the ass stickers too, don't get me wrong. But we talk tough on how we were supposed to actually show the criminal politicians, right, in a way that no matter what, we let them know that there are consequences for their actions, like those guys. But right, the last part of our chat this evening is this current interview that Peter Obi just granted Charles on Arise. That's how we're going to close it this evening, okay? A category is specifically said Tinubu has done well. Somebody told you that it was going to continue from wherever Buhari stopped. And that's exactly what he has done. So why is everybody acting surprised? So I have some clip from that conversation, okay? So I want to share some of them with you tonight before we go. And before I even do that, let me say a quick thank you to my donors, okay? Mind you, I have now raised 5% of my projected of my target, okay? So on, thank you, by the way, African Wahala, okay, for keeping it, you know, going on that part. So Sister Yinka, thank you. Same thing goes to Ihoma, Unaji Uba, I don't know if I pronounce that right, okay, Onyekachi, Odileke, or Odileke, or Odileke. Thank you to every one of you, by the way. So the link to help me contribute to this is right here in the comment section, okay? I've got the PayPal link as well. I've got the Buy Me a Coffee. Lababs, thank you very much for always, right? I got your message as well. So thank you. So far, so good. I'm kind of like moving towards 600 pounds out of 10,000 pounds. And I wouldn't even mind like 60% of that, which is 6,000 pounds, right? Anyway, I will keep it running. And thank you. So let's go hear this from Obi.
Charles, when you talk about improvement, there are not things you say. There are things people feel. There are things people see. There are things that, it's just like when you talk about, I've listened to people say jobs are being created. Where are the jobs? You know, if you talk about job creation anywhere in the world, you see the figures. If you talk about improvement in education, you see it. Improvement in health, improvement in this. If you say the government is now doing the right thing, they're democratic, they're this, you will see it. You just mentioned River State. So where is it? So we can see it. It's not a question of going to say, oh, investors are coming back. Where are the investors? Where are they investing? Companies are closing down. They're leaving. Local companies, manufacturing is going south. So where is it?
Clearly, you're not seeing it.
Nigerians are not seeing it.
Are you possibly, as they say, missing the beat of the moment? His aides are suggesting that perhaps you're focusing too much on playing the opposition card and you're not seeing the increments that are gradually, making themselves felt in this country.
Charles, the Nigerians are not seeing it. I am one politician that moves around in Nigeria, and I know the feeling of the people.
Yeah, but what about prices in the market? I mean, there have been some, maybe not enormous reductions, but there have been some significant reductions, even in fuel, for example, petrol prices. I mean,
where did we start?
They've fluctuated
Charles,
a little, but they've come down.
Charles, where did we start? We started at about 200 to over 1,000, and now it's slightly below 1,000. You have to look at where we started. You didn't just say, oh, it's coming down. No, where did we start? What has changed? Consider the income of the average Nigerian. Those who are fortunate to have a job. What it now tells them if they're buying fuel.
So basically, your prognosis, your assessment, just to be clear, is that things have got worse, not better, in spite of the reforms that the president has put in. I mean, you're not agreeing that obviously reforms take a while to begin to be felt in the country. The removal of fuel subsidy, the regularization of price of cost of naira and all the rest of it. I mean, you don't think that those things are reforms that needed to be done. Wouldn't you have done that if you were president?
Charles, I believe that reforms take time for people to start seeing the gains of it.
Well, that's what their argument is.
But people have to see a clear roadmap that what they are sacrificing for, let's take fuel subsidy, which they say there's huge savings. Where is the savings being challenged?
Well, they said, for example, and I'm not a spokesman for the government, but I have to play the devil's advocate because they're not here. I mean, they said that, for instance, more money is being given to the states. And if you look at the numbers, I mean, the amount of money that the states are getting, I mean, it's higher than it used to be. Although some are making the argument, and I suspect you're making the same argument, that because of the devaluation of the naira, what they're getting is not worth anything.
Charles, if you are making a savings, you said, I want to save this money to be able to invest where? You have to invest in critical areas of development. And those critical areas of development are education, health, and pulling people out of poverty. Are we investing in it? Just no.
Well, they would argue that they're investing in education. They're providing funds and loans for students, which has never happened in this country before, to allow them to be able to go to school.
This country has universal basic education. And we have over 20 million children out of school. That is the critical area. It is the basic education that is critical area. We're not doing anything in it. Just today, I visited an IDP camp. There's over 40,000 people in IDP camps around Abuja. I'm not talking outside Abuja. The one I visited is in Abuja. With over 4,000, they don't have a primary health care.
4,000 or 40,000?
Over 4,000.
Right.
40,000 around Abuja. But 4,000 in this particular facility.
Right, okay.
They don't have a primary health care. They don't have a primary school. They used to have a primary school, which was there by UNICEF. It's closed down for the past 3 years. The kids are there. There's no primary school. There's no health care. So if you don't have that in Abuja, where do you have it? Where? And this is the one you see.
Go to your village or go somewhere else because nobody gives a damn. You know, Itobi. And some of the obedient are already saying, wow, it seems like this guy is coming out of his shell and he's no longer somehow like, you know, tied. How do you say that again? Tongue-tied. Or tied-tongued. I think it's... Okay. Sure, I know what I'm saying. Like the tongue is tied. Is that called tied tongue? Tongue-tied. Maybe it's the same anyway. So he practically just call out a Tinubu. And there is more. Yeah, there is. Let's hear that too. Talking about the judiciary, the role of the judiciary, the role of the legislatures, democracy. Do you even have a democracy?
Well, I have said it and I maintain, Charles, there's no democracy in Nigeria today. Nigeria today is not a democratic country. Let's stop telling ourselves lies. If you look at all the tenets, look at all the yardstick of measuring democracy, it doesn't exist here. Simple definition, democracy is government of the people, by the people, for the people. Today, the government we have is not of the people. It's not by the people because the people didn't vote. It wasn't their votes. I'm not just talking about presidency. Across the line. Look at what happened in Edo. Can you call that democracy? It is not vote of the people. And it's not for the people. I've just told you that I went to an IDP camp where we have thousands of people, no primary health care. They were begging me to have one nurse, which I said I must make sure. I mean, they don't even have primary school, which again I told them, I will make sure it happens. So what are you doing? For a country that just spent 21 billion naira to renovate a house for the vice president, which is not, hasn't packed in, is not living there. And you cannot even have a primary school for kids who are going to be leaders of Nigeria tomorrow. For people who pass through the same process, tonight deny these kids this opportunity today. So it is not a democratic country. So it's not for the people. You can't have a democracy without a functional and effective legislature, which you know we don't have today. You can't have a democracy without, again, an independent judiciary that fights for the common person. I can go on and on. In a democracy, it is clear. There's guidelines. Even when you set for people vying for election, like in Nigerian case, you have to talk about people must be qualified. They must have primary school, secondary school, university, and must, again, an independent judiciary that fights for the common person.
Wait for it, oh. This is where he's going to drop the bombshell. Today, you have people who are certificate forgers in charge of the contraption. Election. Go on, Obi. Please go on. Sorry to interrupt.
Again, an independent judiciary that fights for the common person. I can go on and on. In a democracy, it is clear. There's guidelines. Even when you set for people vying for election, like in Nigerian case, you have to talk about people must be qualified. They must have primary school, secondary school, university, and must attain certain age. Charles, that is not happening today. People are with unverified, forged certificates all over the place, criminal records and everything, and they're in charge. So you cannot say that. It is, yes, maybe we're striving to be a democratic country, but the way we are today is not. Look at what happened in Rivers that you mentioned. Can you call that democracy?
I'm going to come to Rivers State
Yes.
in a minute, because it would obviously require some analysis and certainly your assessment of what is going on there. But they would argue, the president's aides, that Nigeria may be a faltering democracy, but nevertheless it is a democracy. And one of the hallmarks for assessing
how it is all working. Number one, you don't have democracy. Whether it is said by Obi or Mayegu or Confessor Sorinka, it doesn't really matter. The truth is that you do not have any democracy in that contraption. Oh, there is more. Oh, there is more.
reflection. I wonder what your message is to Muslims at this auspicious time for them.
Well, like I said in my tweets, first is that they've been able, after the fasting and everything, been able to reflect about our country. It is now time to say, where do we go from here? And as I wish them happy Salah, I hope we'll use whatever they've been able to reflect in the past 30 days to hope that we'll build a better Nigeria.
And as you talk pointedly there about reflection, let's reflect on the 2 years into President Tinubu's term, what is known as the midterm. As we look into what he's been doing for the last 2 years, how would you assess his midterm?
Well, Charles, you know, I always don't want to be involved in assessing this present government, because I've always remained consistent that he is doing well. Because what he promised the people is exactly what he's doing. That he will start and continue from where the previous government stopped. And that is doing well, Charles. You can go and use every measure. I've said it in this studio before. Somebody who made dollar at 300 and something, 400, is now 1,005. Charles is done fantastic. Same in fuel, same in everything, same in unemployment, you know, everywhere, in terms of democracy, in terms of everything, is in on the sliding side. And that is doing well, because that's what he promised.
Well, I suspect they're likely to disagree with you. I mean, the president's team have suggested that his reforms are working and that his management prudence is bringing back international confidence. They say that growth may be slow, but it's on an upward curve, and that Nigeria's fiscal position has improved considerably, which is the precursor to investing in infrastructure and innovation such as technology. But you don't agree with that?
And there is this part as well, a quick one.
Because it would obviously require some analysis and certainly your assessment of what is going on there. But they would argue, the president's aides, that Nigeria may be a faltering democracy, but nevertheless it is a democracy. And one of the hallmarks for assessing that democracy is freedom of speech, and the fact that you can sit here and criticize the government and be quite, forceful in your criticism, forthright, that is a manifestation of at least a measure of democracy.
Charles, I can tell you that even me is being harassed every day. There's no freedom of speech. And you know that yourself, Charles. And I can tell you, And there's so many people who are being detained in one place or the other because they've made one statement or anything.
Well, I haven't been harassed, to be fair. But
yes,
I mean,
yes, maybe you've not been, but I've been.
well, that's unfortunate.
So I can tell you that even that doesn't exist. But we're not, when you say, yes, he exists, Charles, when you go for an exam and you score 10%, it's a fail. I'm just giving you the real